I'm Zook.
I'm Jason Zook.
And we run a company called Wandering Aimfully, which is an unboring coaching program for intentional online business owners.
We've been traveling full-time this year in Europe, and we've been taking you along on the adventure, and let's continue to do that.
So in the last few videos, we did try out a new format. Turns out we didn't like it.
Doesn't seem like you really loved it either, the dad hat roulette. I mean, listen, you gotta try things. We are all about experimentation around here.
That's right, we love to experiment, and we had to try it to know that we just want to go back to our previous format.
So in this video, we are gonna talk to you about one of our favorite things that we did in Scotland, maybe one of our favorite adventures ever. And then the 2 Airbnbs that we loved that we stayed at in Scotland.
In Scotland.
So our first Airbnb in Scotland to share with you is the Sawmill Cottage.
Yes, and this is in an area, it was in a tiny town called Rind, which is right outside of a bigger city called Perth. But I'm telling you, Rind is just like a couple of houses in a street.
I mean, it's like one of those you're driving down the road, says, welcome to Rind, and then 2 seconds later it says, goodbye from Rind. You're like, oh, okay, that's it.
We love.
Yeah, this was an old horse stable, we believe, converted into an Airbnb. There was actually another building next to it, which we'll get to, that was a very fun additional part of the Airbnb experience. But it was very lovely.
This is one of our favorite kind of mix and match because it has all the charm of like a Scottish cottage with kind of your modern amenities like, you know, kitchens and things like that. But I'm telling you, it had like the clawfoot tub. It had like a plaid carpet at one point.
Yeah.
It had like a lot of blankets and coziness.
The wood fire burning stove, which we didn't use because we were staying here when it was much warmer.
Summer.
One of my favorite things was on both sides of the unit, you had big floor to ceiling windows that let in a ton of light. But also it got to be my favorite part, which was watching what I called Scottish TV, which was just looking outside because you got to see deer. You got to see rabbits.
So many animals.
You got to see ducks. You got to see all these animals go by.
Chicken.
And Samantha the chicken, who came over, and I had my morning coffee with her with a piece of glass in between us. But I could tell that she really wanted to snuggle, and I'm sad that we didn't get to actually snuggle.
Separated. And that's really the thing with the Sawmill Cottage. You not only had the animals that you got to see outside the window, but just the setting was incredibly beautiful and full of nature. You had these like amazing overhanging trees when you kind of drive through the entrance. And I think that was one of my favorite parts about the cottage.
My favorite part, and I think your favorite part actually, if you're being honest, was the adjoining place that I mentioned, which had the ping pong table.
It's the game room.
It's the game room. Very rustic. You also had to be very careful if you were tall like me, because there was like an antler chandelier that I almost like gouged an eye out while playing ping pong. But I would say we got reasonably competitive in our daily ping pong battles.
I mean, if you mean competitive, we had to make up rules, which were, what was it? No slams.
No spin, no slams.
Spins. I just had to keep adding rules because Jason was beating me every time. And I don't do well with slams and spins, okay?
Yeah, but it was fun. Now, the Sawmill Cottage was fantastic. Ping pong, Samantha, all of the charm. But there was one downside. Besides the fact the Wi-Fi is not very good, but that's okay because maybe you're not there for that, you don't need it. The bed situation for the larger of us human beings, for those of you who don't know, I'm about 6'4", 6'5" on one of my tall days when I'm feeling tall.
Tall day.
Many tall days at the Sawmill Cottage, I could not fit in the bed.
Like physically, it was a wrought iron bed with the footboard and like couldn't fit.
Yeah, tried 2 nights in a row. I even tried, we separated, you went in and slept in one of the bunk beds.
Because it was even too small for me.
Yeah, I tried to go diagonal one night, and then finally by the 3rd night, we just carried the mattress into the other bedroom.
The bunk room.
Yeah, there was a little futon that we just opened up, threw the mattress on top, and made what I call a bed sandwich. In which case, I slept on that.
Yes.
You slept in the bunk that was about 8 feet away from me.
And it felt like we were 2 kids at camp.
Marriage camp.
It was marriage camp.
We spent 2 weeks in Scotland at marriage camp, and I think it went great.
Me too. We're still married. So.
Yeah. Our next Airbnb is just a 30-minute drive down the road to the town of Crieff, which is quite a bit longer than you just entered the town and now you're leaving the town as you're driving through. But this was a fun Airbnb.
Yeah, so this was, we're calling it the Bothy.
Well, it's called the Bothy.
It is called the Bothy.
Yeah, but we're also calling it the Bothy.
Because it's called the Bothy.
Exactly.
And I guess we learned that the term Bothy is a thing in Scotland where it was just kind of this like small house or cottage that was sort of for public use. Like hikers could come in and stay for a night as long as they followed a couple of rules, and then you just kind of move on. to be clear, it's not still used as a public bothy. Like there
Right.
is, the rule now is that you have to pay for it.
Yeah, the one rule is that you go on Airbnb
Yeah.
and then you book it and you pay for it, and so that's the rule.
That's the
so it's
Bothy
not free. You can't just show up. You have to do what we
Right.
did and pay for it.
Right. But the design of the bothy was really the highlight for me because it had this cool sort of Scandinavian, utilitarian, minimal vibe mixed with like some more Scottish rustic touches. So you had like plywood everywhere, which was incredible. And then this centerpiece of the concrete kind of fireplace surround. And then the kitchen.
Yeah, with like the copper cabinets and the stone top. Would you
cool.
call this Scandish design or Scantish design?
Scandinavian
design?
Okay, you're just
We're
gonna
just trying
coin that
stuff.
right here and right now.
But it had a really cool feel. It had like a peaked roof. It was very much like everything was open, which was very interesting and different. The Scottish TV was not quite as good. And by Scottish
good.
TV, again, I mean like looking out the windows at all the nature. Right. There was a little bit here and there, but it wasn't, it was fine because everything inside was just so cool.
Even though there wasn't that much to see outside of the windows, there was a cute little river that was just a short walk down from the Bothy. So we did that walk and kind of took in the nature. And that's the highlight of all of Scotland, if you're gonna ask me, is just incredibly beautiful nature.
Yeah, and it was nice to stand outside. There was like a little wheat field, I think, one day. The sun set through there, and I got some just like super cinnamon toast crunch
We got there.
shots that you will love to see in this video. Oh man, I really want some cinnamon toast crunch now. But yeah, both of those Airbnbs, I think, had their separate charm, their separate design, but they both did feel very Scantish, in my opinion. Both of them. Are we making Scantish a thing?
I think Scantish is a real word, isn't it?
Well, it is now for design. You're welcome. I also wanted to share this because this little device showed up in our lives at this time in our full-time year of travel.
Game changer.
This is a little white noise machine. Now, I'm not going to turn it on because it would sound really weird, and I think our mics and like, I don't know about frequencies and things will happen, but we picked this up after watching another YouTuber talk about it changing the game for his sleep. And now that we have been in so many Airbnbs throughout the year, having one constant of being able to like drown out a bunch of noise because you can hear all kinds of stuff all over the place. This has been really helpful. So would highly recommend it. We'll leave a link below to this little white noise machine. Very, very helpful. Also,
bonus item.
I think it has a cute little light. Aww, that's so nice.
Yeah.
But it stays like far away, so I don't know why you would use it, but it's
don't
okay.
either.
It's
It's a
so cute.
nightlight.
Yeah.
What we did in Scotland. Now for the part you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
The coolest experience that we had while in Scotland was visiting some Scottish Highland cattle.
I had this idea while we had arrived in Scotland. It was like hitting in the head. And I realized in our previous home, before we sold everything and started this full-time year of travel, we had a print on our wall of a Scottish Highland cow.
I don't even remember where I got the print. I got it from somewhere.
I don't know, somewhere. We had it for years, and I just remember always thinking like, it's so
His name
cool.
was Hercules.
His name was Hercules. He had such long, actually, I think looking back now that we know some facts, which we'll get to in a moment.
Her name was Hercules.
Her name was Hercules. But long hair, big horns. And I had this moment, I was like, oh, we are in Scotland. We should be able to find these animals. And sure enough, I was able to find them, and we got to meet them.
Jason did a little bit of research and he found Clattage Farm, which is run by Queenie and John, who have been raising cattle on this land for 20 years.
Yeah, so
Which
we
is
made
incredible.
we made the trek from our Airbnb, and it was pouring rain when we got
the
there.
worst day
weather.
weather-wise that you could ask for to be outside with
Yeah.
animals.
And it didn't bother us whatsoever.
Not a
because
single second.
As soon as we pulled up, we got in this off-road golf cart ATV thing, which was nice and covered, which was great. And we started driving through the 2,000-acre place that they had, and we got to
Incredible.
meet some of these cows.
Yeah, but my favorite part is Queenie trying to feed me Highland cattle tips and
Well,
facts
yeah.
while in the golf cart.
You
And I'm
can't
like,
see her
"Queenie,
face 'cause she's
Queenie,
looking forward."
I cannot hear you.
Yeah.
But she was amazing.
The first Scottish Highland mammal that we ran into was a calf by the name of Magnus.
Magnus.
And Magnus was about 6 months old,
Yes.
but about the size of like a Burmese dog, like a giant dog. And I really wanted Magnus.
You were thirsty for some Magnus
I
attention.
really,
I was still a
I was
little.
just ready. Wanted to like these cows, these calves, these heifers, all of them to love me.
Yeah.
And eventually Magnus warmed up.
Yes.
And Queenie kind of like brought him over as well. And so then he started like licking our jackets.
Very, very friendly.
We got to pet him. It was great, and it was a good introduction to these animals.
So after meeting Magnus, we got to meet the real star of the show, who was Maggie, who is Magnus's mom.
Yeah.
And Queenie told us that Maggie is extremely friendly and kind of most magnanimous of the bunch. And first of all, recognized immediately she's my hair twin. We're hair twins.
Yeah, even in the rain, like it looked exactly the same.
And Queenie really encouraged us we could brush her, and she enjoyed that. And it was just, I was more hesitant than you were because these are big animals, but Queenie very much put me at ease, and especially how respectful Queenie and John are of all of these animals, and they know them obviously very well. And just like seeing them in their natural habitat, in their, you know, lots of pasture was just so fun.
Tons of places. And brushing her, she was great. Also, we don't talk a lot about Scottish Highland cattle weight around here because it's just not a thing we do.
Yeah.
But I think Maggie weighed in at 1,600 pounds. So she's like
Incredible.
a small Honda Civic that you just got to brush and
you
interact
felt it
with.
being right next to her.
Yeah, but she was extremely docile. All of them were very docile. None of them ever like charged us or anything. And we even got to hear them like, not purr, they don't purr, but they just made some like little noises that was like an appreciative noise. We're like, Queenie, is that appreciative or is that angry? And she was like, no, she's happy that you're brushing her. We're like, oh, okay, good, that's nice. We interrupt this Scottish Highland Cattle story to bring you some Scottish Highland Cattle facts.
Number 1, a cow is a female who has birthed at least one calf, and a heifer is actually the name of a female who has not yet bore any offspring.
Number 2, much like a rhinoceros, Highland cattle's horns are made of keratin, not bone. When you look up close, you can see the actual fibers that make up their horns.
Wow. Number 3, the females have horns that curve upward, and the males have horns that grow straight forward.
Number 4, the Highland cattle have 3 layers of hair, which help keep them cool in warm climate and warm in cold climate. They shed pretty heavily in the summer, and like humans, some have more hair on their heads than others. Cool fact.
Number 5, they are born with 4 teeth and will grow 4 more teeth to have a total of 8. They don't actually bite the tall grass, they scoop it up with their tongue and then they chew it.
And the 6th fact we wanted to share, Scottish Highland cattle are believed to be the oldest breed of cattle in the world.
Hope you enjoyed our cattle facts, but to continue on with our day of hanging out with these beautiful cattle, we actually then kept cruising around in our little golf cart, and then we stumbled upon a 5-week-old calf and a 2-week-old calf. This calf was fresh. It was the size of a large golden retriever or something.
Yeah, it's amazing that a 2-week-old calf is the size of a domesticated dog.
Yeah.
Also very funny that you said we cruise around in our golf cart.
What
Very
was
much
it?
not a golf
I
cart.
don't-
Well, I
I'm
know.
not- I
We
don't
still
know.
don't know. Neither of us really know
Well,
what
it's
it
like an
is.
ATV type of
But not a
thing.
golf cart. Golf cart would not have made it, especially in the rain
You know what
and,
I'm saying.
and the weather. But yeah, even amongst the rain and the weather, we got to see the younger of the animals, and we were very respectful to the mamas.
Yeah,
We
the
kept our
moms
distance.
were definitely keeping their eyes on us, but again, very much led by Queenie and John, keeping our distance and just being respectful of, because obviously moms who had just given birth are territorial and protective, so.
You all know how moms work, right?
Moms.
Yeah, come on.
And then to wrap up our adventure, we got to have a nice cup of tea and some baked goods with Queenie and John in the rain, just talking about this amazing experience we had just had. It was so enjoyable.
As we made our way back, we got to drive through the area of all the sheeps and the lambs. And when we got back, we actually got to the sheepies. When we actually got to feed 2 little lambs that needed some help and some assistance feeding, and so we both got to do it, and it was very fun. Never done that before. That was a new experience for us.
My baby lamb was much more aggressive in its wanting milk than yours was, but that's okay.
It's all right. It's like a little bit of a role reversal. You now know what it's like to be me when I'm hungry.
True.
Exactly. See? You get it now.
Up our time in Scotland. If you want to see a little bit more about what we did while we were there, check out our other 2 videos we did on Scotland. Just ignore that weird format that we tried out.
It's fine. It's fine. But now we're going to bring back everyone's favorite from our previous style of video, the rating scale. This is very arbitrary. We just make this up. We pick an emoji or something to represent the countries. So let's give you a recap of the ones that we have.
Can we remember?
Okay.
Let's try.
We have the peacock scale in Lisbon. I'm already forgetting what they are. Kinsale was the seals. We had the seashell in Ballybunion.
Yep. We had the cat in Split, Croatia.
Yes. Then we had the sailboat in Far.
Yep. Then we had the croissant in France.
Yes. Then we went to Greece. So the first thing was the Royal Senses, the little cocktail. And then the little island with the palm tree.
For Asia Pelagia,
nicely
Greece.
done.
Thank you.
Then we went to Netherlands and we had the swan scale.
Of course.
So that brings us to Scotland.
Yes.
And we are going to use the Scottish Highland Cattle
The cattle,
emoji.
obviously.
It's actually an ox if you look it up, but that's okay. Don't tell anybody, and we'll just like pretend to paint some hair on it sometime later. So, what do you give Scotland on a scale of 10 Scottish Highland Cattle?
Well, now realizing that like our scale has not gone any lower than I think like 7.5.
Well, that means it's been a great trip so far.
It has been a great trip. I have to give Scotland a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Scottish Cattle. And also especially now having been to, you know, quite like, well, we've been
a few
to
other
places.
countries, yeah.
But my favorite part of Scotland is the nature.
Yeah.
We just felt completely surrounded by nature. The people are so kind. It's very rugged at different parts, and and of course the cow experience. Like, how do you not?
I think having the Scottish Highland Cattle be one of the best experiences of our lives, basically, I think I have to give it a 9.5. I think I have to bump it up. Like it's not a 10 only because of the weather and the pouring rain that happens so often. Not to say that I hate rain, but just like it'd be nice if it was sunnier more often. I think the Scottish would agree with me. But yeah, with the Scantish design that we encountered, these lovely fluffy animals, a 9.5.
Great.
Yeah. All right, where do you think we are off to next? Here are some clips, a little sneak peek of the country
Try
visited.
to figure it out. We always leave it very ambiguous for you. But that wraps it up for Scotland, and thank you so much for watching these videos. We love taking you along on this journey with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.